There we go. Okay, it's starting. Hi, James. Thank you for joining
Hello.
this broadcast today. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? What subject you do and what college you're at?
Yeah, so my name is James. I am studying geography at St. Anne's College. Just finished my first year a few weeks ago. Obviously, exams were cancelled and it was a really weird term, but pretty excited for next year, second year, of course. And yeah.
So why did you actually choose Oxford over Cambridge? Did you always know you wanted to go to Oxford?
Actually, no, for a long time I wanted to go to Cambridge.
Really?
For family reasons, but then I went to visit both the universities, and I just found the geography course to be a lot more interesting at Oxford, a lot more suited to what I was interested in. Also, I had heard from a lot of people that Oxford had a better social life, essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
no,
yeah.
I agree. Like that's what I was told, and that did influence my decision quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie, because I do think Oxford being like a bit of a bigger city is just I don't know. I think both unis have a decent social life, but I do think Oxford's is probably a bit better. What do you know like anything in particular that interested you in the geography course at Oxford? Like
Um,
topic area?
just well, I think there's a quite a famous distinction between the geography, well, relatively famous, not that famous, between the geography departments at Oxford and Cambridge, which is that Cambridge tend to divide human and physical geography a lot more, whereas Oxford tend to integrate them. So I think that's best exemplified by the environmental geography part of the core modules next year, where they're quite blended together. And
Yeah.
that most reflected my perspective on how the subject should be taught and studied. So, yeah, definitely that was a part of it.
That's fair enough. And do you think that lived up to your expectations in first year?
Not in first year, to be honest. In first year, they're studied pretty separately, because the two modules are physical, Earth system processes and physical geography.
Yeah.
And human geography, so they were taught quite apart, which I guess I wasn't really expecting, but it turned out totally fine in the end, so it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. I mean, how big is the geography department at Oxford? Is it quite big?
I think there's about 90 people in each year. I think
And did you
that's on the small side, to be honest.
Yeah, it is relatively small in comparison to other, like, subjects
Yeah.
maybe. Did you find that was, like, an advantage at all? Like, could you work with people when you were, like, working and studying? Not all really.
It's probably a disadvantage, to be honest, because there's just less people who you might get along with, who doing your subject, especially when you're meeting
Yeah,
everyone in first year, and I guess less people you can discuss different aspects of the work with, and for me at least, I found it. I guess in some ways the fact that St Anne's only has 3 geographers is actually a good thing in terms of college education, because you get a lot more attention. For example, my friend who does PPE, they're in a cohort of 12 or something, and a lot of the Zoom calls they had to have were pretty big, and it was hard to get a word in. Whereas for geography, it's just the 3 of us, so we get a lot of attention, which is obviously good for learning.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, is that quite an average number for amounts of people who do geography at each college, or is there, like, a
No, it's definitely on the small side. I think it's probably the smallest, actually, because it was meant to be 4, and then it's just 3 of us now. So
and is that, like, one reason why you chose St Anne's, or did you choose St Anne's for, like, completely
I
different
didn't
reasons?
choose St Anne's, actually, to be honest, but I'm
Were
now extremely happy that I ended up there rather than at St John's, which is the
Oh,
college
you
I.
went to St John's. Whoa. So St John's is, just for people who are listening, that's, like, quite close to St Anne's, relatively. It's, like, 5
Yeah, they
minutes
have
away.
They have
It's
a
the
like a
it's no,
kind of relationship, which is maybe why I got pulled to Anne's. But they share a football
yeah,
field and everything,
but
football
I
team.
mean, why are you happier that you ended up at St Anne's? Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, just because I think it's just a really good so Oxford is like really diverse in terms of the kind of, I don't know, the kind of upbringing in a way that you get, and I think Anne's reproduces a really really progressive and like aware one where you're kind of you don't live in a as much in as much of a bubble that than you can live in other colleges
Yeah,
because it just feels just more um, connected and with the outside world and just kind of aware of their positionality, just of our privilege, um, and of course I quite like the fact that it doesn't get as, you know, some people might not like this, but the fact that it doesn't get as much attention, we're kind of just like doing our own thing, and also just because it's just really friendly and yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
There's just a lot of different things that make me really happy to be there.
I agree with you. I think personally, so I was pulled as well. You probably know that. I was pulled. I had a nightmare of an application process. So I applied to Worcester, then got pulled to Jesus, then got pulled to St Anne's. Um, but I actually am so happy, obviously, that I ended up at St Anne's. I think we were both also very lucky. Like you have a really close best mate at St
Yeah,
Anne's now, and so do I. And I suppose if we hadn't been at St Anne's, we wouldn't have met those people.
yeah,
So that's the advantage. And also, yeah, it's just such a relaxed college. And I agree with you, maybe because St Anne's is a bit out of town, and because no
mm,
one really knows about it. Like I didn't know about it before I got to
no.
Oxford. I
People
think
give
it's
us people give us crap for that, but in reality,
yeah,
it's a good thing. If you look at it in a certain way, it's a good thing.
yeah, I suppose there's a bit of the stereotype of, like, everyone who goes to St Anne's was pulled, but that isn't true. Like,
No,
some of our best mates definitely are.
but that's
It's
mainly
half and
because I
half,
mean
but also
that's quite normal. Um, that's quite normal simply
yeah,
because of the distance from the center, which obviously
yeah,
no one's. I mean, most people are going to try and avoid that, so they're going to apply to more classic traditional colleges. But
yeah. Yeah, I guess, and I think, to be honest, if anything, like, it gives us an advantage as a college. Like, I don't know, I do think the people who are pulled there are usually quite calm anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah, no,
But
it really doesn't. And people like every. I mean, I've not really met. I've met some people, of course, that are unhappy with Oxford, but I've rarely met people that are unhappy with their college, and I think that most people find that they kind of create, they kind of foster a loyalty towards their college eventually, just inevitably, because you're just always around there, and there's a lot of competition between other colleges as well. So, like being pulled to a certain college is never going to really affect your life, to be honest.
no,
Yeah.
definitely, and I do think, what do you think? Like, are you happy that St Anne's is a big college? 'Cause I think that's a great advantage, because I do feel like we've kind of found our niche group of friends there, even though that's quite a stereotype.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice to the extent that there's more obviously a greater chance of you finding people that you really with,
Yeah,
um, which you know maybe in really small colleges might be a bit of a problem. Some people might feel a bit lonely, but everyone kind of has found well, a lot of people at least have found people that they can be really, you know, grow really good friendships with at St Anne's. So
yeah,
I think most people would say that they're happy with that.
yeah. So how did you actually find moving in? Like, how did you find let's talk a bit more about, like, Freshers' Week and your experience of Freshers.
Yeah, actually, the day so I my dad drove me down,
Yeah,
and I remember having got 0 hours of sleep the night before. Um, and so I was just in that kind of really sleepy haze where you kind of, I don't know, your mind works a bit differently when you're so tired, and
Yeah.
you find, yeah, so it was, and so I remember it just being so surreal, kind of like driving away from home. It felt like I was driving away from home forever, and then just seeing my room and thinking like, and then thinking like, yeah, once my dad leaves, like I'm kind of just on my own. It's kind of like those moments. It felt a bit like those moments in films where there's a. I don't know if this is. It's not really from. No, I don't know if this is from some kind of Disney film, but where the baby animal leaves the mother animal or something forever,
Yeah.
and it's like you just become. It's like the
You feel abandoned.
manifestation of your independence, I guess. Moving
Yeah.
into your new room.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you kind of feel abandoned. I felt like, "What am I gonna do now?" Like, I'm just literally sat in my room by myself. Like, I actually have to
Yeah.
make all my friends now. Like, what do I
Yeah.
do? But I mean, can you talk a bit on, like, the Freshers events
Yeah.
and, like, how you got to meet your friends and, like, because I think we met each other quite soon in Freshers Week. I can't really
Mm,
remember.
I think we got close doing the play though, to be honest, which was
Yeah,
a bit
yeah, yeah,
later.
yeah.
Because
That was
I
later.
think we had met, but we hadn't really spoken properly.
No, no, no,
Oh
that's
no, you
true.
were at Spoons as well. We did speak, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk a bit more about, like, just Freshers in general and how you think
Yeah,
that compares to, like, the rest of Michaelmas? Like, whether you thought the rest of Michaelmas was better than
I
Freshers,
think
et cetera.
Freshers is done. Freshers, I really enjoyed it, and I think I love meeting new people. I also think it was done really well, and I also think that, especially at Oxford, it's maybe one of the few opportunities there are where no one has any academic commitments or
Yeah,
obligations, and you can actually focus on meeting people and really enjoying yourself. So
yeah,
definitely don't let it go to waste. Um, and I think that, I mean, we were really well cared for, and by the various JCR reps, and I don't know, it was a bit overwhelming, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing or anyone's fault.
yeah,
One issue I kind of do have with Freshers Week though is, I think Freshers Fair is I think it should be in another week, because even though, I mean, I get that it's a whole Freshers Week vibe, I think everything is too overwhelming for you to properly wrap your head around, like what societies you might to go to
yeah,
and to properly think about it. So I think they should maybe make that happen first or second week, because then you're at least a little bit more settled in, and you can kind of formulate decisions a bit better. You won't be hungover as well, I guess. And
yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree. I think it was a bit hard to balance going out most nights and then going with a hangover to, like, all of those lectures in the mall, which
yeah,
is, like, the lecture theatre in St Anne's, and then, like, having those
yeah.
talks on, like, finding your way around St Anne's and how to do your laundry, and then also having, like, the fresh first. Like, it was all a bit overwhelming, I guess. Can you remember, like, a specific event that you liked in Freshers Week? Like,
Um,
at all?
to be honest, the
Or, like, your
first night
club
at
night, maybe?
Spoons, probably one of the best. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. No, no, no. I was about to say I agree. So, like, I think it was really nice. I think it was really nice how the freshers reps, like, took us all to Spoons, 'cause the good thing about the freshers reps at Anne's was that they really tried to involve us, like, from the start. Like, they really tried to break down, like, that kind of inter-year awkwardness, which I kind of really
Hmm.
appreciated. I don't know if you found
Yeah,
that as well, but yeah, you know,
yeah. I found immediately, like, as soon as
but
I kind
growing
of
up a
got
bit
to uni
since.
and started meeting people, I realized how much less significant the kind of inter-year barriers that you might find at upper school or sixth form just completely dissolved away. I mean, even though I guess they're still there slightly, just because our older years have more experience at Oxford, they're just so much less relevant and important than they might be at school.
Definitely. So what accommodation were you actually in? I didn't even know which room you were in this year.
I was in Bev 5. I still
Oh
contend
yeah,
that I have the smallest room the smallest freshers room in Oxford University.
yeah. And just in context,
No one has challenged me. No one who's seen my room has challenged me. So
yeah.
yeah,
Also, it's a bit unfair because you are really tall. Like, it's not like
yeah,
you're a tall
exactly.
guy.
It was
Like,
it was a
people
pretty
see it.
tiny room, but I guess it was like cozy in its own way. So
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
The Bevs, the Bevs are the main freshers accommodation for St Anne's, and I think so. They're quite nice houses, but I do think they have a bit of work. Like I don't know, just with like renovating them and making them, I don't know, a bit nicer for freshers.
I think
Like
they're
personally,
really good.
that's what I think. 'Cause
They're they're really good. I think socially, because we have notoriously big kitchens. Wait, can you hear me?
I think the connection went a bit dodgy. Sorry, James. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. You froze and then disappeared. Um,
Yeah,
I was just saying that
my internet.
the Bevs are really good to be in. Um, the Bevs are great to be in because they're really social. Uh, Even though the rooms might
Yeah,
not be
like
as nice as some of the other accommodations, it depends on what you value more, to be honest. But
yeah, and I suppose you don't really have a choice in that because everyone's allocated a room randomly in first year. But I do think it's like it definitely was great for socializing for me anyway. Like that's how I met some of my close friends, like Izzy, for example, because of the best. So, it's- so do you think like where do you actually you work in your room a lot? Because obviously it's tiny. Or do you usually work in the
I'm
library?
sorry.
Do you usually work in the
Oh,
library?
I work in the library. Yeah,
Which
library. Yeah.
library? Do you work in the new or
Um,
the
I've I've hear me.
yeah, yeah, the connection's just going a bit dodgy. Just carry on.
I think there's a massive lag. There's a massive lag in when I say something and when you hear it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine now for the minute. If not, if there's
Um,
something
okay. Uh, what? I work in the library because I've always found it really hard to work at home, and I guess that translated into finding it really hard to work in my own room at uni.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I also find the sphere of everyone working kind of motivates you, for me at least, and you're kind of away from anything that could distract you. So yeah.
yeah, that's what do you think about the like maintenance in the baths? Did you have any issues with like heating or like with your scalps or your kitchen or anything?
Um, well, the heater actually didn't work in my room, so they gave me an electric one, which works
Uh,
actually probably better than the normal heater
yeah,
would have. And I do think that there are some Wi-Fi issues uh, throughout the Bevs. Some people's connection is really awful, and yeah, I mean, hopefully that can be sorted out at some point in the future. But of course, it isn't really that important because the Wi-Fi is really good in the libraries. So
Yeah, exactly. And also, like,
um,
when that was an issue for me, I just got, like, an extension cable. Like, I asked the porters,
yeah,
and then they just gave me one, so it was good
fair
after
enough.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your you're in Rain with me next year, right? Floor 3,
Yes, I am.
right? Yeah, so how did you
I think
what
I'm
place
floor two,
were you
but I don't know.
okay. What place were you on the
Um,
ballot when you for it?
I think I was really, really quite high up. I think I was 16 or something because my room this year was
Yeah,
quite, and that's how they kind of determine your place on the ballot. So that was nice. But obviously, we were faced again with the choice of either being with friends or having an insane room.
yeah,
And obviously, all of us at Rain chose the former, which I think is really good because we'll all be together next year and it'll be a lot of fun.
yeah, definitely. I think it was nice because we did, find friends that I don't know, we all got closer at the end of the year, and then we've now
Yeah,
got a kind of solid friendship group, which is nice. 'Cause I suppose that's what's so nice about having a big college is that we could all, form a group and we can all be together
yeah,
next year. Yeah. And it's also good because St Anne's provides 3 years of on-site accommodation, so we don't need to move out or anything. Like, I
yeah.
know some other colleges you already have to move out this year. It's just crazy to me. Um, so can you talk about, like, cooking and things? Did you mainly eat in hall, or did you cook for yourself?
Yes, I didn't cook very often, shamefully. Um, but the kitchens were certainly. I mean, I think they're some of the best in amongst Oxford colleges because they're fully
Yeah,
equipped. They're really spacious, so great for socializing. But equally, the St Anne's is good, and there's and also very cheap. So I found myself eating in halls most of the time.
yeah, the halls are also just such a nice way to catch up with people because, like, it would be sometimes that I'd be studying all day and then I wouldn't see anyone, like, because I study in my room, and so it was so nice then to just go to hall and,
Mhm.
like, just chat to everyone, I guess. What's your favorite food in hall? I'm intrigued.
Um, it's probably the Southern Fried Chicken burger.
I've never had that actually. What the hell? I didn't know they did.
It's really really good. They have
Have you
they
tried
have all the
the
sauces.
really? What?
Sorry.
Why?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even know that was a thing. What the hell?
You didn't come to halls that often though, did you?
No, no, no. So I
So
usually cook for myself, but
yeah,
I really my favorite thing on the menu was the like, the Nando's style chicken that they did, like, maybe once every 2 weeks? It was really
yeah,
good, but
yeah,
they
yeah.
did
They're good as well.
for, like, maybe lunch. That was my favorite,
Yeah.
personally. Um, have you joined any societies at St Anne's?
Um, you know what? Not at St Anne's, to be honest. But well, I guess the football team, I guess counts. Um,
Yeah,
but other than that, I did a college play in first term,
yeah,
and that's yeah. I haven't joined any specific societies at Anne's, but university-wide ones. Yeah, I have.
yeah. Can you talk a bit about, like, the football? Like, did St Anne's play in coverage
Yeah,
and
so it's one of the nicest things about the collegiate system is that there's two completely different levels of seriousness and commitment and requirements in terms of sports. So college level sports are a really really good fun. Still competitive because you play against other colleges and obviously there's huge rivalries, but also just not important to the extent that university level sports are,
yeah,
which gives people who don't want to be too serious about sports but still enjoy it to get involved. and so you're totally in control of how much or how little you want to play, how much you want to devote yourself, which is obviously really nice because obviously the games of football were really good fun, but if you couldn't attend for whatever reason, you weren't obliged to. So yeah, the football was really good fun, and then of course there's social events related to it, such as crew dates and yeah, just in general, just meetups and stuff, which are really good fun.
Yeah. What do you think of crew dates? Like, can you think of any times where you had fun on a crew date or not?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We had one. So there's a restaurant quite near St Anne's where the football team were called Mint Green Army MGA.
Yeah.
Have the crew day, which is and it was really good fun. A lot of kind of traditional activities were occurring, such as throwing pennies around and sconcing people. And by the
That's
end, I think the captain of the football team got asked to leave. We all got asked to leave
yeah.
because well, obviously, I wasn't being too loud, but that some of the people were. So they can get obviously quite rowdy and loud and well, they're still really good fun, to be honest, though. But yeah.
Can you explain what sconcing is? Just 'cause, like, I don't know whether people who are listening know that.
What a sconce.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, what's a
it's
sconce?
basically like it's like a never have I ever, but it's targeted to someone specific. So often the person making the sconce knows about something something embarrassing that someone's done. Obviously, it rarely gets like too personal or offensive or anything
Yeah,
like that.
usually quite
Just something quite
light-hearted.
funny. And something that the person doing the sconcing knows that the person receiving the sconce wouldn't mind. But it's essentially calling someone out for something, and then if they'll have to stand up and drink. And there's always the kind of added bonus of maybe someone else who you wouldn't have known about having done the same thing, and them having to stand up as well. So
Yeah,
they're good fun.
yeah. So what did you think of, the box this year at St.
I
Anne's?
thought that some of them were definitely a bit of a flop. So I think there was one with St Hugh's where we were all terrified of mumps because there was like a mumps outbreak at St Hugh's, so no one from our college
Yeah,
went.
yeah.
And there was also one of the megabops. So the megabop in first term was nowhere near as good as the one in second term,
What was the
I would
theme of
say.
the one in first term? I
Um,
can't remember.
it was like gold themed.
Oh, yeah, for the St. Anne's Ball, which ended up being cancelled anyway because of
Yeah,
corona. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. It was like opening
can
party.
you talk about the mega bop in second term a bit more? About the Ann Summers
Yeah,
bop?
so it's a traditional bop that's done with Somerville College, who are quite near us, um, and it's done in our dining hall. So we're one of the few colleges, if not the only one, who's able to do this because we don't have lots of really old, expensive paintings in our dining hall.
Yeah,
um,
which is a plus, I think.
but yeah, it's a plus, yeah. And it was just really good fun, just because everyone's really hyped for it every year, and it has the expectation of being good. Everyone turns up, and yeah,
Mm.
it's just really good.
Yeah, and what did you actually end up wearing for your costume? I can't even remember what you wore.
I think I just wore my yellow jumper, to be honest. I didn't put as much effort in. Oh,
Oh,
for the sorry, no, I was thinking of the first term bop.
no, no,
For
no.
Anne Summers, I was just wearing a robe and my underwear, I think.
Yeah, so I
um,
mean, just to explain,
but it
like the
was
Ann Summers box is like where you dress up in, well, you're meant to dress up in like lingerie because it's like meant to be a play on obviously the shop, and it's like a joint book with Somerville, which is why it's called Ann
yeah.
Summers. And either you go in a very revealing manner, or you wear like pajamas. Like there's not all that much pressure, I don't think, really. But it's just really
No.
funny. It's really funny, and it's like
Yeah.
it's unique to St Anne's, and it was just a really funny night. Like it was a really funny night, and they just sell drinks in the hall, like cheap, like kind of cocktail things. And so yeah, it was quite funny. Okay, but so you said one of the box earlier was a bit of a flop. You're Ents rep next year, right? So are you going to be organising some of the box?
Yes.
So what are your plans for making them
Yes,
better?
I am. Me and Carol still have a lot of discussing to do on that front. But I think one of the most important things is communication. So some of the bops last year, some people didn't even know were happening. So it's really
Yeah,
important to push the fact, and to also do it quite early. Another issue was that the bops were just announced like really close to the date, and obviously a lot of people will
yeah,
have other commitments at that point. And to kind of and to have good ideas for themes, I think is more important than a lot of people would think. Because like if it's a good idea, it'll obviously mean that more people want to try it out, and just kind of just for the sake of dressing up in a funny way, or for just seeing how it turns out, if the theme is really funny or just clever. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's cool. Okay, so I've got one more question before I'll let you go. What advice have you got
Mhm.
for any potential applicants for geography? And also, what advice can you give? Like, what would you say people should bring to St Anne's if they are people with offers?
So for geographers at St Anne's, you mean?
Just geographers in general.
Oh, just do. I mean, don't. It's not necessarily important to read around specific kind of subjects, but just make sure your breadth. So, like, definitely do read around the subject, but just read things that you're actually interested in, rather than things that might be important or foundational to the course, because you do get introductions to everything that you do in the first year.
Yeah,
And what is important is really crystallizing your passion for the subject, and starting to think about what parts of it you find most interesting. And obviously, doing that will also give you a lot of ammunition for the interview, which is just so important. um, and
mhm.
yeah, so essentially just read things around your subject that you're interested in, rather than things you might think are necessary, but definitely do read things, I'd say.
Yeah. And what would you say just in general then for like people wanting to go to St Anne's or thinking of applying, or like people with offers? Like, is there any advice that you would
um,
give them?
yeah, just uh, be ready. I guess it's really intense and can be overwhelming experience. It's just the so many different aspects of your life are, you know, occur at Oxford, and it's, in one way a really nice thing, but you got to kind of be in that, be ready for quite an intense lifestyle. I mean, obviously it varies hugely depending on what you want, and also don't, I mean, absolutely don't have the kind of preconception that we work like dogs, because even though that's the reputation that Oxford has, it's absolutely not like that, and you do have time to do things that you enjoy. Um, Obviously that's also dependent on the course that you study, but
No, but I
it's
do think you're
definitely
right in saying that. Like, definitely. I think the nice thing about St Anne's, and I think one thing that kind of needs to be stressed, is that you can definitely like have balance like a nice social life with the amount of work that you do. And I think definitely my advice would be not to stress really when you come, and just to try and make the most out of your first year, I suppose, and to just enjoy it. Yeah. I don't know if you can add anything to that, but I think you've said everything that you wanted to say. Anyway, James, I don't know, you keep glitching a bit, but
yeah.
thanks so
Thanks.
much for agreeing to interview. This internet's driving me crazy.
Thank you for having me. I hope that I can be of help.
Yeah. Okay, bye.